Hey, hardened men, hopefully you're doing well. Hey, we're going to continue to dialogue some more about Genesis chapter 1 because there are so many things in Genesis chapter 1. So if you've been with us on Sundays, you know that we talked about image of God the last few weeks. And here's what it says. Then God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness. And it says, so God created man in his image. And first of all, before we get in Genesis, I just want to note on the Bible reading plan. I've got my phone here and I've got the Bible reading plan on it. Hopefully you're tracking along. We're in the New Testament reading plan, and man, every morning getting up, getting coffee, getting in my chair and just reading the Bible has been so helpful for me. And I hope it's helpful for you. So if you're off the pattern, if you're not doing that, continue to read the Bible. That's the most important thing we do as hardened men, is we read the Bible together. Now we come together to talk about the Bible and also the implications of the Bible. So not this Sunday, but last Sunday, I preached on image of God, how it means that we represent God, we rule the world under God. And so if you want to take any of those and discuss them, you can. But as every sermon happens, you don't always get to cover all the things you want to cover. So I actually had 5 applications that image of God requires us to think about. And so I want to pitch them to you guys and for you to sit around during your discipleship group and talk about these 5 things that image of God affects. And they're very cultural topics. So man, these could go a lot of different places. So the 5 things that I think the image of God theology really affects is abortion, racism, euthanasia, immigration, and AI. So I want us to think about those 5 things. So think about abortion. How does image of God, the knowledge that all people are made in the image of God, how does that affect how we think of abortion? And what should be our posture, our attitude? What should we do as men to try to fight against abortion? Because, well, babies, even in the womb, are made in the image of God. So I'd love to just talk about that as point number 1. Secondly, what about racism? Man, we've seen, especially since 2020, just all sorts of rise of racism and all these different things. How do we think through as Christians on how we treat people who look different than us, if it's true that all men are created in the image of God? Like, how should image of God theology affect the way we treat people who look different than us? So we're going to talk about that, deal with that as a group. And then thirdly, euthanasia, or doctor-assisted suicide. This is very popular in Europe. It's coming in the United States more and more. What does it mean? If image of God, how do we care for the elderly? Is it okay for an elderly person to decide to die on their own? Is there something wrong about that because we're made in the image of God? So let's talk about doctor-assisted suicide. Is that okay or not based on image of God? And then fourthly, immigration. Man, we're dealing with all sorts of immigration crisis. You hear it all over the news. Well, let's think about it a little bit deeper and just first ask the question, okay, when we think about immigration, first and foremost, we think about that person across our borders or trying to cross our borders as they bear the image of God. So how should that inform our starting point when it comes to immigration on how we treat all people, whether they're an American or not, because they bear the image of God? And then lastly, what about AI? What about artificial intelligence? What about Neuralink that people are pushing? You got Elon Musk creating a chip for our brain that's going to help things. What about when we have technologies that make us not just maybe human, but human plus technology? Where's the future going? How should image of God really inform the way we think about just all the technologies that are coming in the form of AI, but then also in the form of Neuralink, like putting things into our bodies that make us different and link up to technology. So you can take this wild goose chase as many places as you want, but I think it's good for you in this place of D groups where you know these guys, they know you, you love each other. Let's have frank conversations about these 5 topics, and let's apply image of God theology to all of these and think about how we best are to live as men created in the image of God in a world where every neighbor we come in contact with also bears the image of God. Hey, have fun this week, and don't forget, keep reading your Bible.